Hello there, YouTube. So, it looks like Flight Sim World is done for and will be shutting down at the end of May, which doesn't really come as a big surprise, as I reviewed this, I believe, last year, and came to the conclusion that because they made quite a few tactical errors, one of them being discontinuing backwards compatibility with FSX add-ons, aircraft, things of that nature, where at least for several years, Prepared supported many of the aftermarket third-party add-ons for FSX, not everything, of course, but that meant people who are looking to move on from, at this point, over a decades-old flight simulator to something new, at least some of the stuff maybe they've purchased would work with Prepared out of the box. Now things have changed with Prepared as well, and that's just due to the fact that Prepared has several years of further development, and, at some point, trying to support 10-year-old or features that work on a 10-year-old flight simulator just isn't possible when you're trying to push the envelope towards new technologies. Flight Sim World, in its later iterations here, I did get substantially better performance. If you recall, whenever I was trying to use it a year ago, I was getting single-digit frame rate issues, and as I was saying, they had the problem of, well, Microsoft Flight Simulator X, which has a huge catalog of third-party add-ons, again, over 10, 12 years of development, oftentimes was on sale at Steam for between $5 and $10. And if you were looking for a bunch of add-ons, they were there. Flight Sim World, on the other hand, while they did bring in some developers like Orbix, and so there were some other third-party aircraft available for this flight simulator, if you're getting started out, there's no reason not to go with either X-Plane 11, which, again, continued development of a previous flight simulator with a bunch of new and improvements. The X-Plane 11's user interface got a whole lot better with 11, as well as the fact that it does support things like virtual reality out of the box now with the Oculus SDK, or I'm assuming the Vive as well. I don't have one of those to test. So it comes as a little surprise to me that Dovetail Games wasn't able to really make this take off, pardon the bad pun. So it doesn't really come much as a surprise to me. I did like some of the features that were in Flight Sim World, such as the route planner. I thought was far more intuitive than, well, that's really something that X-Plane 11 lacks, and was more intuitive than what was in FSX. But if you're looking for more to the FSX experience, well, go with Prepared from Lockheed Martin. Again, with, I believe they're up to version 4 of Prepared. Not everything is going to work from the back catalog of FSX add-ons, and as the versions have increased over time, fewer and fewer of the third-party add-ons for FSX have been compatible. Again, that's just kind of the nature of that beast. But I think a lot of people who were looking to continue on with the Microsoft Flight Simulator core technology have already since moved on to Prepared quite a while ago. And at this day and age, if you're looking for a new flight simulator to get into when it comes to general aviation, civil airliners, things of that nature, I think you'd be hard-pressed not to consider going with X-Plane 11 at this point, as the third-party developers are starting to come over to X-Plane 11 and develop more for that platform, as it's kind of become the du jour. And that's also due to the fact that Prepared's licensing with Lockheed has always been somewhat tenuous when it comes to people buying it for at-home use. Yes, there's a $60 academic version that's supposed to be for student pilots and things like that they never really enforced, but they bought the commercial version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Dovetail Games ended up with the commercial at-home entertainment version. And the Prepared has always had the disclaimer, this is not for entertainment purposes, even though largely that's what it did end up getting used for, utilized for. But it's been 64-bit now for a number of years. A lot of the FSX developers have been also developing for Prepared. It's been fairly easy for many of those people to transition from one platform to the other, and the way that Flight Sim World was going to break backwards compatibility was essentially just shooting themselves in the foot. Now, I could have understood that if Flight Sim World would have moved on and said, look, your old FSX stuff, some things may work, some things won't. We won't guarantee backwards compatibility, but it may work. You know, those third-party aircraft that you've purchased and stuff over the years, they may or may not work. That's up to the third-party developer to do with our system, as opposed to just completely writing it in such a way to lock them out. Was just a fatal mistake, I think, for them trying to enter into this world. I guess the downside is it is one less flight sim out there, but they were already basically hard-pressed in a market that saw, on the budget end of things, FSX is still out there, and for the moment still viable at a very heavily discounted price, again with a large library of free, low-cost, and high-cost add-ons, depending on how much you want to spend, already out there. It's a known quantity. It exists. If you can get into it for $5 or $10 as somebody's first flight simulator, that's great. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you had Prepar3D and X-Plane 11, both quality products out there, and the flight sim market just isn't that huge. So this comes as very little surprise to me, to be completely honest, but they will be shutting down Flight Sim World. It will never enter, or I should say it will never exit, quote, early access come, I believe, the 23rd of May here. And again, part of me is kind of like, well, it would have been nice to have one other out there, as it looked like Flight Sim World was going to be dedicated more toward general aviation aircraft. Again, that could have been a decision that really shot themselves in the foot, because I don't know if there's a lot of people out there looking for just being able to fly Pipers and Diamonds, and of course they didn't have any Cessna aircraft licensed, which for a large segment of that market still of student pilots, they're learning on 152s and 172s still, not being able to fly Cessnas. One more reason to go with FSX, Prepar3D, or X-Plane 11. So, and that was one of just several factors that I think led to the demise, and some may say the premature demise of Flight Sim World. But anyway, those are my 2 cents. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment in the section down below. Do you think there will be any other flight simulators come around in the next few years? I really don't think so. Or do you think that the market's probably already saturated? Comment below, and see you next time.